As you guys probably know by now, I tried to upload my Tick Tick Boom reaction twice, but Netflix had other plans and blocked it. But I'm still gonna talk about it. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we present you with scenes from a modern romance as told in song. I feel bad that you feel bad about me feeling bad about you feeling bad about what I said about what you said about me not being able to upload my video. If I thought that what you thought was that I hadn't thought about sharing my content, then my reaction to your reaction to my reaction would have been copyrighted. Hey there my people, Happy New Year. Hope it's a wonderful one for all of us with lots of theatre and no COVID. I'll do a prayer circle in my first live of the year just in case. I believe you can say the movie musical game was really strong last year, so I felt the need to make a video to talk about what my 3 favorites did right to, set the tone for the future of movie musicals. However, I still feel really bad for not using any of my Tick Tick Boom reaction footage. I thought we could play a game at the end of this video. I'll play some of the clips from the reaction, and whoever guesses more of the scenes that I'm reacting to wins Best Subscriber of the Year! So stick around, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like theatre, music, and those two combined, or serotonin and happiness and being understood, same thing. Now let's talk about In the Heights, Tick Tick Boom, and West Side Story, and why they work so well on the big screen, while other movie musicals, well, not so much. I think the first and best choice they could have made to start on the right foot with these movies was involving musical theatre creatives. I know that's only true for the cast of West Side Story, but Tick Tick Boom and In the Heights had musical theatre creatives working in the crew, behind the scenes, which to me was essential for the adaptations to feel authentic and work on the big screen. And you can tell how the movies look and feel different because of that. Spielberg's tragic love story has a very particular cinema mindset, while the others borrow more from theatre. Watching West Side Story was way less intimate than the others. It felt much more like a blockbuster due to Spielberg keeping his cinematic style, with those air shots and massive scenarios that are only possible on the screen. Take for example these 3 moments when the protagonists profess their love for their female leads. In West Side Story, while Tony's singing Maria, there's a time when we see him from above with lots of lights reflecting on the floor behind him. That's a very cinematic shot because an audience in a theatre would never be able to see that scene from that angle. From the angle, Maria is supposedly seeing him, which looks really nice on the screen. Then we have Usnavi in the Heights, either seeing Vanessa pass him by the whole time, which is something very common on stage, or finally being kissed after a fight scene where the camera follows them the entire time. We can see them both on screen the whole time. Again, like on stage, where we can always see everyone who's in the scene. And then Tick Tick Boom comes in to completely subvert cinema and give us the most theatre of the theatre shots. The protagonist being sung to, having his own feelings being thrown at him as he watches, which is essentially what theatre is, how we watch it. Last year was really a blessing. Now take the therapy scene from Tick Tick Boom as one of the best examples of how a musical theatre creative understands how to make use of the best from each medium and merge those elements in the most comprehensive and appealing way. In the movie, the scene jumps from the song performance, where they sing about their fight in a very unhinged and comical way, to the scene of the actual fight, when they're both hurt and angry. On stage, we wouldn't be able to have one character in 2 scenes at the same time, so we would probably only see one side of the song. Now, Lin-Manuel could have made them just sing the song in anger in the movie as well, to reinforce what they were feeling at the time of the fight, but instead, he chooses to make the best of the possibility of having 2 scenes happening at the same time, opening a whole new perspective on the state of mind of the characters at different stages. That way he can show the moment of the fight and the aftermath, when they're replaying it in their heads and considering new outcomes if they had done or said something different, and then going a little mental because of it, as one does. I was really hooked on that scene because Lin-Manuel knew how to choose the right tools from his cinema experience and his theatre experience to compose it, consequently being able to go beyond the ordinary. Also, the way they managed to make the dialogue fit the melody so the cuts sounded and looked seamless. That was probably my favorite sequence in the movie. Oh no, there's Sunday. Ooh, also the piano one. I can't choose. That movie was so good. Another triumph of the movies, and probably my favorite thing about Tick Tick Boom, was the structure of the story, the form of the narrative. Lin-Manuel Miranda has a real talent for non-linear storytelling, and it shows in most of his work. That's no surprise. And as a sucker for creative storytelling, I really appreciate that. The timeline of In the Heights is relatively linear for the most part, but having the movie start from the end completely changes our experience. And they did that on purpose, obviously, because they wanted to subvert our expectation of the main question in the story. Will Usnavi be able to go home? Or better yet, where is home? West Side Story is a roller coaster because it goes from conflict to hope that things will get better, to anxiety, to desperate hope, to tragedy, which keeps you hooked to the story. Because at some point, you unconsciously understand that structure. But to me, out of the three, Tick Tick Boom's the one that makes the best of creative storytelling. Jonathan Larson's story is about failure and glory, two outcomes that frequently go together. And they chose to explore that by shaping the form of the narrative around that. Tick Tick Boom is about a moment of failure, but it's also about all the little glories that make us succeed at some point. It's about the learnings and the growing. We're watching him get stressed and disappointed and going nowhere, but in between that, we see his love for theatre and for the people around him, his devotion to music, his persistence, and how all that guides him to a new road that will take him somewhere else where he will finally succeed. That dynamic between failure and glory is the pillar of the movie, and they did an excellent job navigating it without being too depressing. Oh my god, the song sequences in these movies was so creative. They really feast for the eyes, weren't they? I can't think of one song where its visual adaptation didn't surprise me or stunned me completely. All the song sequences were unexpected in the best way possible. Or they will have a couple of details that will make the whole thing, just special. And that's what we want movie musicals to have, right? Those little moments that make the theatre experience so special. We want them to replicate those moments where you're sitting in a theatre and you realize you're seeing something that will stick with you for the rest of your life, or at least for the next few months. My favorite sequences in West Side Story were the political ones. Without mentioning the beautiful wardrobe and choreography, America is a song that fights itself the whole time, right? And it's brilliant. It keeps going from praising the American dream philosophy to shutting it down. And that sequence is immediately followed by G Officer Krupke, which is a big critique to how the social system is not really fair to anyone. I remember being super hyped about how they basically had dance-offs rather than the usual gang fights when I watched the original West Side Story. Well, half of it. And I remember thinking, wow, there is nothing more musical theatre than that. So I'm very, very glad that they kept that essence of the movie, along with the actual fighting. Also, even though I'm not a huge fan of the romance in there, here's a big shout out to Rachel Zegler's high notes. Do I need to say anything about the pool sequence in the Heights? Or Paciencia Fair making me ugly cry in the movies, like properly ugly cry? No, I don't think I need to say anything about it because we all probably feel the same, right? And then there's Tick Tick Boom with the claps in Boho Days marking the rhythm, the cuts in No More ending with Jonathan on the train back to reality, Andrew conducting the whole Sunday sequence, the graphics underwater in swimming. Oh, and speaking of the graphics in swimming, they were so well used that it reminded me why I didn't like the graphics in the Heights and any other movie where they included Melly to look pretty, as a matter of fact. In Tick Tick Boom, they have a purpose for the character and consequently for the audience. They represent that moment when Jonathan finally reaches that clarity that he was looking for to write his song, and how inspiration can happen anywhere, even underwater. The graphics have a reason to be there. They help the character move forward. And in my humble opinion, that's always how they should be used, with a clear purpose. Unless you're doing a very specific style of movie, of course, like I don't know, Mary Poppins or something. And since we're talking about visuals, it was so cool to come out of West Side Story and think back at how these three movies look completely different. And I mean the actual image, the filter they used to make In the Heights look bright and passionate. Tick Tick Boom looked like an indie movie, very appropriate, reflecting Jonathan's struggle to make it in the industry. And West Side Story somehow looks old and new at the same time, probably because there is a crispiness to the image, but the colors are still bright, or at least brighter than they used to be when the movie originally came out. Well, I went into Tick Tick Boom and West Side Story not knowing the songs, so I probably had a different experience from many people. When you know the songs, you can't help but create an expectation of what the visual sequences should look like. I was experiencing them for the first time in this new context, so I had no reference for comparison. But I see that as a positive because it allowed me to watch the new material for its own identity and not for whether it's better or worse than what came before. Sometimes we get so stuck in our love for a story that we forget that it can exist in many shapes and forms. That's the beauty of putting it out into the world, right? And how awesome is it that we got three great movies with completely different music genres. So let's talk about how they took advantage of that. West Side Story sounds like classic Broadway, like one of those shows that you can expect long dance breaks from. And the movie reflects that. The opening scenes, for example, are just walking, dancing, and fighting. And we have both big and small dance breaks, like the instances where the music goes completely instrumental. And we have these little dances like Marie and Tony under the bleachers. So we could clearly tell how the music was driving those stories. Similar to West Side Story, In the Heights has lots of dance numbers, but for a different reason. It's more to do with expressing people's passion and culture. It is true they insert elements of Latin music in the West Side Story score, but it's just sprinkles of it compared to In the Heights. The music of West Side Story is a hybrid, which makes sense because it's not only about immigration issues, it's about the social issues that affect both immigrants and Americans, which is not really true for In the Heights, solely focused on the life of Latin American characters. As for Tick Tick Boom, Jonathan's songwriting is imperfect, and it's raw and relatable, or at least will draw sympathy from the audience because he writes about the underdogs, including himself. And what better music genre than the one that allows you to scream your problems away? But he can also be really sensitive. I just really love his songwriting style. I mean, when Andrew Garfield sang What a Way to Spend the Day for the first time, I felt electricity all over my body. But not just because the song is absolutely beautiful, also because those lines have been in my head on many occasions. And I immediately understood that that was Jonathan singing his thoughts. So these movies are really great examples of how the music drives the stories, as it should be. Also, if anyone knows how to get over the Sunday number from Tick Tick Boom, please let me know because it had me on the floor mumbling to myself in disbelief. That was absolutely fantastic, a work of art. Literally, because it ends with a visual reference to Sunday in the Park of George, right? I don't know anything about the show, but it has something to do with a painter or paintings. Anyway, absolutely incredible. One, spotting the cameos had me screaming every 5 seconds, even though I probably didn't know half of those people. Two, having Jonathan conducting the whole number after he nearly has a breakdown to represent a little bit of control was phenomenal. Three, the development of the song is simply fantastic. The vocal power at the end of it made me feel things I had never felt before. And speaking of sound, I take my hat off to whoever decided to not translate the Spanish bits in West Side Story. The language lives on its own in the movie, as do the characters, and it's beautiful to see or hear. It's such a simple way to tell you, look, these people are not just accents, you know? Oh, so good. I want to see more of that. It is true, those movies were not perfect and also didn't make as much money as they were predicting. West Side Story was way below their financial expectations in the box office, but there are many elements involved, including some really bad examples of movie musicals out there, which will take a while to brush off. The fact that it's always harder to sell a remake, and so on. However, they were still beautifully crafted movies that I hope will launch a new age of movie musicals. And those are the reasons why I believe In the Heights, Tick Tick Boom, and West Side Story should be referenced for what a movie musical should be like from now on. Now let's play a game, shall we? I'll play you some clips from my Tick Tick Boom reaction, and you guys use the number on your screen to go in the comments and let me know which scene do you think I'm reacting to. Are you ready? Go! Whoa! I know, right? Oh my god, that's so cheesy. But also, this is clearly a reference to old classic rock music videos, right? Oh, Stephen Schwartz. Hold on, are these all Broadway people? Do I know this guy? Andre! Oh, hey you! I feel like I should know all these people, right? The more I learn, the more there is to learn. Whoa! The vocal power in that... That was ridiculous! Okay. This has lin-manuel Miranda all over it though. That sounds kind of like One Song Glory, doesn't it? And if that's actually a reference, given it's about that one song that will, bring Roger peace in life, then that's a very smart move. Oh no, Jonathan. Oh, wrong move. No. Oh, I should have seen this coming. That's all for today, my people. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to leave your like. And let me know in the comments which show would you love to see on the big screen in the future. And I'll see you next time to conquer the world of musical theatre. Keep singing. Ciao!